If I had to sum up today's entire video in a single word, it would be audacity. The person we're talking about today is hands down one of the biggest creeps in Hollywood. Maybe not the biggest creep when you've got animated trash like Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein rotting in prison, just stubbornly persisting like radioactive cockroaches. But still, when you've got people like that associated with Hollywood and you still manage to seem like a complete creep, clearly something is very wrong here. But in addition to that, he also has a massive ego and is now claiming that despite video evidence, this is all just a smear campaign because everyone is, quote, jealous of his genius. So yes, today we're going to be talking about Francis Ford Coppola, aka the director of The Godfather, and the $15 million lawsuit he just launched against the writers who shared the video evidence of him being an absolute creep. But first, welcome, my name is D'Angelo, and I am your professor of asynchronous time paradoxes, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe this is just me broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. And in today's lecture, we're going to see that Coppola has actually gotten away with this for years, but he's managed to largely avoid being labeled as a weirdo by the mainstream, mostly because he's like desperately losing all of his relevance in real time, but also because his early work was so monumental to cinema that people are giving him an excuse. An excuse which he is now trying to use in a court of law, while simultaneously dealing with a few legal troubles of his own, which we'll go over soon. So it's no exaggeration to say that despite Coppola's current troubles, he was one of the most prominent directors of all time. Almost everyone is familiar with The Godfather, but that's not even the only film of his that's considered a cinematic classic. He also directed Apocalypse Now, and he was consistent throughout the 80s, though his work has slowed in recent years, as you can see, with a 13-year break between his previous film and the one that's causing all of his problems this year, Megalopolis. So the funny thing is, I actually just talked about Coppola and Megalopolis in a video. Lionsgate apologizes to Coppola for now pulled Megalopolis trailer. God, Megalopolis is just a mouthful. And as I discussed, this trailer included a bunch of fake quotes, with people supposedly trashing his previous films. But then it turns out that these quotes were not actually real. They were either fabricated or taken from completely different articles. These fabricated negative reviews were trying to push the narrative that one filmmaker has always been ahead of his time, and true genius is often misunderstood. So said the narrator in the trailer. Whatever you do, don't forget that wording from the trailer. True genius is often misunderstood. One filmmaker has always been ahead of his time. Now, after I talked about that in the video, Francis Ford Coppola actually came forward and he said it was a mistake, an accident. I'm not sure what happened.
I know that there were bad reviews. I'm the one who said there were bad reviews, but it was a mistake, an accident. I'm not sure what happened.
And regardless of whether or not he was directly responsible for the quotes, it's pretty clear that he was responsible for the tone. But this is all going to come back up later. Now, Coppola and Megalopolis controversy have been going hand in hand for months now, with him bragging at one point about how the film isn't woke and features actors who were canceled, presumably referring to Jon Voight, who is a Trump supporter, and Shia LaBeouf, who is accused of and admitted to abuse allegations. I hurt that woman. They're not even allegations at that point. He's just an abuser, straight up. What I didn't want to happen is that we're deemed some woke Hollywood production that's simply lecturing viewers, Coppola told Rolling Stone. Unfortunately, supporting abusers is going to turn out to be a bit of a theme with Coppola. And the movie's controversy continues, because when it premiered to critics, it was receiving extremely mixed reviews, with everyone admitting that it is definitely different, but some people pointing out that different doesn't always equal good. This is a passion project without passion, something of a mess, even if it is a stunning achievement, clunky, garish, but transcendently sincere. But regardless of the glimmer of optimism from the reviews, the Hollywood supporter suspects that the movie, which cost $120 million to produce, is currently on track for a $5 million domestic opening. Megaflopolis indeed. But regardless, mixed reviews, poor box office performance, a fake trailer fiasco, and even the controversial actors really pale in comparison to the biggest issue that was going on behind the scenes with Megalopolis, and that is the extremely unprofessional behavior that has been alleged by multiple sources. So that $120 million budget was actually all of Coppola's own money, and some people claimed that because he was calling literally all of the shots, he had complete control and was acting inappropriately on set. Several sources felt that Coppola could be old school in his behavior around women. He was accused of pulling women to sit on his lap, trying to kiss some some of the topless and scantily clad extras during a nightclub scene, allegedly saying he was trying to get them in the mood. And obviously, with that just being disgusting and indefensible, everyone did still have to note that these were allegations. The sources were all anonymous, so no one really came forward and confirmed anything publicly. But that wound up not mattering at all, because then just a couple months ago, Variety publishes this video of Francis Ford Coppola kissing megalopolis extras surfaces as crew members detail unprofessional behavior on set. Honestly, I get really annoyed with how quickly people jump to dismiss any and all criticism when things are not literally proven on video. But this time, as you're going to see, unfortunately, this is literally proven on video. And just a fair warning for harassment, this clip is disgusting. This is just not behavior that anybody should be engaging in a workplace, regardless. And it wasn't just an actress. As you can see, Coppola just waltzing around the room and picking random women. He keeps grabbing them, pulling them in for hugs. Like, it's very disturbing. I do find it absolutely crazy that I would even have to say this, but obviously hugging people is fine if they're consenting to it. But walking around, grabbing people, repeatedly kissing them, none of that is okay from your employer, let alone anyone really, if you didn't consent to it. So with one article already alleging really serious stuff, and then Variety dropping a video that confirms at least part of those allegations, things were obviously not looking very good for Francis Ford Coppola. Then this very strange article came out from Deadline, which I think was trying to make him seem better, but really had the opposite effect. Salacious Variety video claims are false, says Reina Menz, the extra shown with Francis Coppola. I think saying the extra is really interesting when I counted at least 4 women in these videos, but let's see exactly how Variety was being salacious by sharing a real video that exists. Variety last Friday published for clicks what it called an exclusive video of Francis Ford Coppola kissing megalopolis extras. Even just the framing of this opening sentence is crazy. Obviously, the article was published for clicks, but like, is not everything on the internet? Even when you're talking about things that are important, you do still need people to click into it to be aware of it. So, and then just referring to the video as what it called an exclusive is so funny because it is objectively exclusive. Variety was the only one with the video. Like, what do you mean? The story did not get much traction, though it caused pain for the filmmaker. And then it says it broke while he was joining his children and relatives as they were gathering for a memorial service for his wife, who passed away last year. That is undeniably unfortunate timing, but I personally find bringing it up here in this context to be extremely strange and off-putting. Now, the extra in that pseudo-salacious video reveal, Reina Menz, has come forward with a complete denial that Coppola misbehaved at all during those scenes. So one of the actresses in question said, "A video involving me has been released with a misleading headline. None of the claims about Francis Ford Coppola are true. This video was taken on a closed set, and I'm disgusted by these allegations and hope everyone will see the truth for what it is." She then told Deadline he did nothing to make me, or for that matter, anyone on set, feel uncomfortable. He was nothing but professional, a gentleman. He was like this cute Italian grandfather running around the set. Now, before we get into that, I just want to emphasize that this is the most unprofessionally written article I have ever seen in my career. And make no mistake, the career in question is not journalism. I am in fact just a YouTuber. My videos typically have a lot of sources in them because I want the people watching them to be able to quote me directly and know that they're not spreading misinformation. But at the end of the day, these are all just supporting my opinion. And I think that's pretty standard for a YouTube video. But seeing it here in this Deadline article is sending me. One wonders why journos are working so hard to tarnish one of the greatest living filmmakers America has produced at a time when he is grieving the loss of his wife. Love or hate the film, but in this moment of corporate cowardice, by which they're referring to the fact that literally nobody wanted to produce this movie, so he had to pay for it himself. Coppola should get some credit for seeing through a movie he spent decades thinking about. When he passes away, all these naysaying trades will provide referential coverage. Why wait to treat him with some dignity and respect? Bro, what are you on? I'm sorry, but the glazing is crazy. What makes this even weirder is that Deadline is a sister publication of Variety. They're both owned by Penske Media Corporation, who, as you can see, list Variety, IndieWire, Rolling Stone, and Deadline Hollywood as subsidiaries. And the Deadline article even refers to Variety as our sister publication. So I'm like, What is with this beef? So Variety kind of almost responds, but instead of making it about Deadline or some dumb drama, basically, they came forward with a statement for one of the people who was in the video. A different person from the woman who said everything was fine and dandy. Extra kissed by Francis Ford Coppola in set video breaks silence. I was in shock. So this is, I think, one of the women he grabbed. And the actress Lauren Pagone says she was dancing in the middle of a live take of a nightclub sequence when Coppola approached her and pulled her towards him. He then hugged and kissed her. I was in shock. I didn't expect him to kiss and hug me like that. I was caught off guard. And I can tell you he came around multiple times. So when you do have one actress saying, I was completely fine with this, and another saying, I did not consent to this at all, some people seem to be a little split, but I don't see this as a difficult situation whatsoever. In fact, Lauren Pagone said, I don't appreciate anybody speaking for me. I would never speak for that actress. I've kept my mouth shut, I've kept quiet, but it's frustrating that she's putting out there, hey, it was great for everyone when she doesn't know what other people were feeling. You can't speak for anyone but yourself. My experience was different. And that makes perfect sense. I'm glad that this wasn't a negative experience for the other actress. I don't want people to have negative experiences, but the fact that she explicitly said he wasn't being inappropriate with anyone, that's not cool at all when there are multiple people who are coming forward anonymously. And now, as you can see, it's driven them to give up their anonymity. And when you take into consideration things which may have happened but were not caught on camera, like one source alleging that Coppola got on a microphone and announced in earshot of everyone in the room, sorry if I come up to you and kiss you, just know it's solely for my pleasure. The man is a creep, regardless of what may have been positive experiences for some other people. Even if nothing was confirmed except what happened on the video, that is creepy behavior. Because Coppola funded it, there was no HR department to keep things in check, says another source. Who were they supposed to talk to? Complain to Coppola and report Coppola to himself? Overall, the situation is just disgusting. But it has just now gotten a whole lot weirder. Francis Ford Coppola sues Variety over story alleging megalopolis misconduct. So he just now sued them for $15 million in damages. Not just suing Variety, but naming the actual reporters as defendants. Variety has since said, while we will not comment on an active litigation, we stand by our reporters. And I believe that's the right thing to do. Like, that article made it extremely clear what was alleged and what was on video. I did not get the impression that Variety was saying all of these things happened and we know all of these things happened and this is true, but rather, hey, there are all of these really disturbing allegations from anonymous sources, and this video that appears to corroborate some of the most serious of those allegations. But somehow, months after the article's publication, Francis Ford Coppola has decided that this is libel. And the lawsuit that he officially filed to prove how libelous this is hands down the most unhinged wording I have ever seen in a document that was submitted legally. Here is the suit, the demand for jury trial for a complaint for libel with Francis Ford Coppola versus Variety Media, Tatiana Siegel, and Brent Lang, the writers. And y'all, I promise you this is real. I promise you this is real. I have never had to. I promise you this is real. Some people are creative. Very few people are creative geniuses. In the world of motion pictures, plaintiff Francis Ford Coppola is a creative genius. Some people are jealous and resentful of genius. These people therefore denigrate and tell knowing and reckless falsehoods about those of whom they are jealous. Hence, Variety, hiding behind supposedly anonymous sources, accuses Coppola of etc. Each of these accusations was false and knowingly so. They were made to harm Coppola's reputation and cause him severe emotional distress. That harm has been caused. So the suit actually says Coppola asked Variety to take the article down, providing unnamed evidence that the allegations were false, but Variety refused and doubled down. It repeated the same allegations and thereby emphasized its malice towards Coppola. I'm sorry, but why in the world would you think a lawsuit, which is like your only chance to defend yourself against misconduct allegations, would be the proper platform for you to brag about how good you are at doing your job? The parties. Plaintiff Francis Ford Coppola is a multiple Academy Award winner and has directed some of the most iconic films in motion picture history. His methods of movie making have often been groundbreaking. And it literally just goes on and on. 5 Academy Awards. Several of his films appear on lists as some of the best of all time. Like, I genuinely cannot make this up. Yes, some of this would be to partially establish some sort of reputation, therefore he can prove that Variety messed it up. But I feel like there was a way of doing that that maybe wasn't isn't completely insane. But yeah, remember how that trailer said genius is misunderstood and he was the one director who was ahead of his time? But also Coppola has no idea how any of those fake quotes got in there supporting that. Well, it's very interesting to me that the same verbiage has now wound up here in this lawsuit, which by the way does nothing to really refute any of the allegations. It's literally just a multiple page document saying, nah, plus I directed The Godfather. Literally crazy. But there's something I personally find really disturbing about, well, more disturbing about all of this. The timing of this lawsuit is very, very strange. Like I said, he is kind of months late with this, but it comes just days after he was sued. Coppola faces sexual harassment suit for alleged megalopolis incident. And who sued him? Lauren Pagone, one of the women in the video and the one who said she was shocked and he came around multiple times. She alleges he kissed her cheek and touched multiple parts of her body without her consent. Obviously, this suit looks really, really bad for Coppola, seeing as the alleged incident is literally filmed on camera. But just a couple days after that drops, look what happens now if you Google Lauren Pagone sues Francis Ford Coppola. The top result is about his lawsuit towards Variety. Variety sues Variety for $15 million, sues Variety. Francis Ford Coppola sues Variety. Now, a few results down, we get this one result about her lawsuit against him. But again, it's Variety, Variety, Variety. And at the bottom of the page is one other result about her suit. I don't see any other reports about her lawsuits anywhere on the internet. They have all been rolled into and absorbed by the larger story of him suing Variety. And think about the lawsuit. It was weird, right? It was objectively strange. It was worded in a way that made people talk about it and focus on how ridiculous it is that he was calling himself this great artiste in the midst of these allegations. How can you ignore the fact that Coppola has largely skirted past any sort of real criticism from these allegations? But the moment it turns legal and people find out that, wait a second, she's accusing him of the thing that actually is on camera, he has this crazy bonkers lawsuit, the likes of which I've literally never seen. It feels very calculated to me personally. Now, I have to point out that even if all of this happened in a vacuum and the megalopolis controversy was the only thing he was dealing with, Coppola would still be a creep. Like, there's definitely enough there for me to feel comfortable saying, dude's a weirdo. But if you look back through his career, there is another incident which is so extremely strange, and his statements about it show that things are a lot worse than we thought. So there's this man, Victor Salva, who is known for directing films like Jeepers Creepers, but is also known for being a convicted pedophile because the man actually recorded himself with a 12-year-old who happened to be the lead star of one of his films. The child in question grew up and later revealed that he had been groomed by Salva since he was 6 years old. And the actions that Salva went to jail for went on since he was 7. And Salva's jail sentence, by the way, was 3 years, of which he served 15 months. But don't worry, he was able to go back to making movies almost immediately after. Why? You may wonder. Like, where was he getting any sort of support from? His mentor, Francis Ford Coppola. So there's this 2006 article from the LA Times. After Salva's release from prison, Coppola gave him enough money to live on for a year. When MGM was nervous about hiring Salva to direct Jeepers Creepers, Coppola vouched for him. And here's what Coppola had to say about this in 2006. Someone had launched a campaign against Victor, saying, how can you give this guy a movie to make? So I helped Victor get the job. I was criticized for it, but my attitude is, he has a talent, and that talent in itself is good. We don't have to embrace the person and believing that their art is a contribution to society. We'll talk about this in a second. But yeah, Coppola says, I didn't know of anything improper going on, although I witnessed some things that caused me to raise an eyebrow. Only in retrospect did things really add up. You have to remember, while this was a tragedy, the difference in age between Victor and the boy was very small. Victor was practically a child himself. Victor Salva was 29 and this boy was 12. There was a 17-year-old age difference and the child was 12. I'm sorry, but Francis Ford Coppola is actually demented. Coppola is not surprised that some people will never forgive Salva. They're entitled to feel that way, but he has a real gift as a filmmaker. This man genuinely believes that if you have some sort of filmmaking talent, all of your wrongdoing, even if it is literally the grooming and abuse of a child, can just get downplayed as not that really big of a deal, and you should be financially supported so you can continue to live out your dream. He said this after Salva's jail time, knowing these ages and knowing exactly what happened. So Francis Ford Coppola is an absolute creep. All of these patterns of like working with abusers and defending them and setting up environments where there's no real repercussions and then getting called out and immediately leaning on how talented you are, and that's what... None of this is actually new. It's sort of just the culmination of what happens when you've been allowed to get away with this for literally 80 years. And as for this whole separate the art from the artist thing, which I already know some people are going to bring up here as well, can I just ask this? I really just have one question. When are y'all going to learn to separate the artist from the art? When are you going to realize that just because somebody made something good doesn't mean they need to be defended? People only bring up separate the art from the artist when the artist in question is a bad person, usually a terrible, terrible human being. That's when you want to separate the art from the artist. But no, the truth is you want to separate the artist from the art by literally giving people your money, in Coppola's case, vouching for them, enabling their continued support. You are supporting them as people. That's not you consuming art without supporting the artist. That's just supporting the artist. I personally don't believe that in most cases a person's actions actually affect their artwork. But why, pray tell, would I support them, knowing full well what they have done? So I don't think there's anything wrong with watching Megalopolis, for example, but giving Francis Ford Coppola your money in your attempts to watch his films is definitely questionable. Writing entire articles defending him against people's accusations is beyond questionable. And a lot of this really shows that a majority of this separate art from artist discourse is really just about how can I continue to defend people who have done bad things so I don't feel bad about supporting their artwork, in my opinion. But yeah, in conclusion, this dude sucks like so bad actually, and I really hate it and I think it's gross. And that's my take on the situation, and I'm excited to hear your take. I mean, this is the part of the video where a layman would ask you to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment, but I will ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and submit your feedback. Because I am of course running a 100% completely, maybe not actually, somewhat slightly unaccredited university. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. We're totally legit. And as for me, whether you'll see me in 24 hours or 24 months is honestly anyone's guess, but until then, thanks for watching. Your homework for today is to write your own fake movie reviews. I will not be checking the sources.